Hi, welcome to the bathtub, where when you hear this iconic theme song, not Dodo. Then you all know the drill. This is Pointless Adventures in Literature. Sometimes they're pointless. Sometimes these reminiscences are pointless. Sometimes they're meaningless. Sometimes they're pointless and meaningless, but they're always pointless, meaningless, or both. You can bank on that at the bathtub. Dodo, shut up. We spent this afternoon battling with the evil budgerigar of my home. Dodo's got her feathers back, and she's full of fire, full of passion, unpixelated water. I'm going to be leaving Dodo with some babysitters pretty soon. Dodo and Lucky are going to have their favorite babysitters, and we're going to go off on an adventure. Anyway, it won't be a pointless adventure this time. It'll be a very meaningful adventure. But the pointless adventures are about the bathtub, because if it's really meaningful, if you're reading meaningfully in the bathtub, you're doing it all wrong. We're trying to do a pointless, meaningless hour or so every day, and to get through the rest of the bullshit of the day. This is an idea. I'm doing a bunch of these together, and it's a pointless adventure, which I've been wanting to do, and I keep forgetting these. So I'm doing a lot of things today, so before I forget what they are. And I pretty much have done the same episode, like in different names. This one is called My Go-To Writers. My 10 or 12. It's supposed to be 10, but it always ends up more. My go-to writers. Who are the writers that I most can always depend on? Like, I can always go to them when I don't know what to read, and I'll always have a good time. Now, there's fewer than you think. For example, we just did Nabokov. He wouldn't be my go-to writer. There's a lot of times I was not right in the mood for the defense the past week. I enjoyed it, but I really wasn't. I didn't have the brain that I needed to read that book. I'm talking about writers who are intelligent and good and absorbing, and they kind of can take you at any mood you're in. They will satisfy you. They will keep you entertained in the bathtub. So this is my top 10 go-to. They're not my favorite writers. Thomas Pynchon, we've been talking too much about Thomas Pynchon lately. He's written some of my favorite all-time books. He's not a go-to writer for me. Again, there's some days I'm not ready to read a Pynchon books, but most every day I'm going to give you 10 people who they always work in my bathtub. They never go lukewarm. They never turn stale in the bathtub. Here, come here. She's a big Thomas Pynchon fan. I don't have any particular order. These are just, I pulled them off the shelves. And also, the other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you the ones I probably might read next. I'm going to do this quickly. Richard Yates. We all talked about this. One of my all-time favorite writers. Love Richard Yates in the bathtub. I've read all of his books many, many times. His short stories, his novels. This is his least successful novel. The second one, called A Special Providence, which I want to read next. I've read it fewer times than the other books. It's still a terrific book. It has some structural problems. We probably talked a little bit, I think, that kind of doesn't entirely work. I think this has my notes. These may be the notes from my interview with him. I can't remember. Columbus Day. Yeah, I think I went and saw him on Columbus Day. Wow, that's interesting. Those are my notes from going to see him. And what year was this published? Dodo. One of these days you're going to tune in and Dodo's going to be served up to local cats. Okay, this published in 1965 or 69. 69 probably. Anyway, really, really lovely book. One of my, even with its problems. Here's another one I put a few poets on here. I always could enjoy James Merrill. And I'm not saying he's my favorite poet or anything like that, but I just always really liked James Merrill. I like his poetry, and I like these. This is a cool volume because it has the individual poems. I like it when they do a collected volumes, when they do most of the individual collections. So Nights and Days is in here, and Braving the Elements, etc. All the individual ones and then uncollected poems. Anyway, this is a cool edition, and I'm a big fan of Changing Light at Sandover, one of my favorite books of poetry. So I can always go to him, I can pretty much open up to a book, to any one of the books, any book or collection, any collection of stories, poems of his, and I'll enjoy. We talked about this. Is no surprise to any of you bathing buddies out there. You all know George Simenon. No matter how screwed up my brain is, or what a bad day I'm having, or something's not functioning in my cerebral cortex, or the bathtub isn't working, I can always pick up his Yard Simenon novel. It could be a Maigret. Again, I like these. I love these volumes. These are the ones that introduced me to Simenon. There's a second omnibus because they always have one or two Maigrets and one of his non-Maigrets, and they're very different flavors. And anyway, these are some of my favorites, The Accomplices. I might like to read this volume again soon. I put this in. He kind of doesn't fit the bill because all you know is all these writers who published a lot of books. So there's a lot of stuff to choose from. I didn't pick people like Salinger, say, who only have 3 or 4 books. He can't be a go-to writer. There's only 3 or 4 books. Flaubert wrote very few books in a way, but I put him on the list because he's still one of my favorite writers. I can pick up any one of his novels pretty much at any time in my life, and I'll still get great pleasure out of it. So that's why I put him in there. Who else have we got here? Chekhov. Most of these aren't surprises to you. Chekhov is not just one of my favorite writers, not just what I think one of the great writers is, but he's my go-to writer. Whenever I need to read something and just see it all done right and enjoy myself, I always enjoy it. And I can't remember, I read these so often in different editions. Lady with Lapdog is one I really like, so I put that there. Here's another no surprise, Graham Greene, always a go-to writer. I've never gone to Graham Greene and been disappointed, ever. Every time I go to a Graham Greene novel, whatever I read, even the ones that don't work, aren't his best books, I still enjoy them. I think the next one I'll reread is Brighton Rock. I haven't read this since I was a high school kid, I think. And I really liked it. I'm having to turn somebody off who's calling to say hi, but just so I can finish taping this. Brighton Rock was a really brilliant one, and I'd like to read it again. Okay, sorry, Bruce, I'm going to call you back in a bit. Balzac. We haven't talked about Balzac at all. I love Balzac. He's a go-to writer. I really, many times in my life, don't know what to read. I go to Balzac. I know I'm going to have a good time. Here's a new go-to writer. We pretty much discovered him in the bathtub. In this stupid show. Oh, anyway, I'll call you later. This is the next volume in the Rouquan Marquard series, which we can't pronounce well, called Potluck. And I've read all the previous ones. I'm reading my way through Zola. He's a go-to writer. I have not been disappointed by him yet. I'm kind of breaking my rule there because I haven't read all of his books, but I can pretty much know I'm going to. Thomas M. Dish. He's a perfect go-to writer because he wrote lots of books, lots of short stories, lots of books of poetry, some actually excellent criticism. Whenever I want to have a good time and laugh and see some really intelligent fiction writing, I can always have a good time with a Tom Dish novel. This is On Wings of Song. I haven't read this since it came out, but I did love it, and I want to read that again. Maybe that's the next one I'll read. William Trevor. We've always been big William Trevor fans of the short stories. We've liked the novels, and we're really enjoying our way reading back into his early novels right now. The next one I'll be reading is The Love Department. Isn't that a beautiful copy? Look at that. This is one of the best buys I ever got on the internet. I bought this really cheap because it was a library copy, and this was covered in, so you can see the tape. They had one of those Brodarts on it, and they say it's a library copy. It's in a Brodart, so it has stamps. So I got it. I took the plastic thing off it, and there was this beautiful, beautiful Art Deco, beautiful design book cover. Anyway, I'm a big William Trevor fan. Of course, we can't mention William Trevor without one of probably my top 3 writers of all time. Which was the next one? I probably want to read Answer from Limbo. That's Brian Moore, An Answer for Limbo. I think we'll be doing that, taking that in the bathtub pretty soon as we read backwards through all of Brian's books. Short story writer. And I'll put his novels in here, though I don't like them as much. I haven't read them as well. I'm pretty much have to say Cheever's a go-to writer for me. For 50 years, I've gone to him many times where I didn't know what to read and reread them and had a great time. So it's not just, these aren't just so I've reread them a lot, but I can always go there and have a good time. And they work any mood, whatever mood you're in. I've talked about this, all these people before. Jack Kirby's completely insane DC period was the end of my college appreciation of comics. I stopped reading when I was like 18 or 19. These are some of the last I read and loved. I loved the Commandy books. I loved the weird Mr. Miracle stuff. And I have all of these. And I can always, whatever my mood is, I can always go to them, and they're always a good pacifying bathtub experience. One more poet, Elizabeth Bishop. It's hard picking this, but Elizabeth Bishop just really gives me great pleasure when I read her. Read her for a long time, and again, she's not necessarily my favorite poet. There's lots of poets I like as much as her, but having all in one volume now, I like to go back to this any chance I get, and I just really have a good time. I have not read many of the short stories, but and her essays, but the poems always make me happy. Okay, and finally, last but not least, Nero Wolfe. Rex Stout's Nero Wolfe, the Fat Detective, him and Archie Goodwin always make me smile, always keep me interested. The books get a little kind of, some of the plots drive me a little crazy, especially in the second half of his lifetime. The plots get really complicated, and then the last 20 pages, who murdered so-and-so, goes into a very complicated thing. And I sometimes just stop reading them. I don't care who killed anybody. I just like the stuff between Archie and Nero Wolfe. And reading these are my go-to writers since I was about 15. That's it. Happy bathing. Thanks for sticking around. We'll see you soon. We're going to be back in a little while. And stay safe. Stay in the bathtub. And I'll tell you, when it's safe to come out, I'll tell you all. Okay.